Hello there, televiewers. You're watching the grand interview on PRC TV. It is true that the presidential election period is behind us, but in this edition, we are taking you back to some important aspects of it. Today's topic seeks to assess the head of state's efforts to fight hate speech in Cameroon's public space. During President Paul Biya's swearing-in ceremony on the 12th of October 2025, the head of state urged Cameroonians to put an end to hate speech flooding the public space, especially on social media. Generally, when talking of hate speech, another term that usually comes into the picture is xenophobia, which is equally a growing threat to the peace and unity vision of President Paul Biya. Hate speech and xenophobia are phenomena often manifested through the stigmatization of a particular group of people and the sentiment of reject towards them on the basis of their origin, race, nationality, ethnicity, color, religious or political orientation, just to name these. To clearly understand and analyze the causes, manifestations, and consequences of hate speech and xenophobia in Cameroon, Dr. Desmond Ngala is here with us to throw more light on the issue. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you.
And so, besides being a political analyst, he is a peace-building consultant, president of the Civic Watch Association, and best known for being a fervent actor in the fight against hate speech. Welcome to PRC TV once more. It's a pleasure for us to have you.
Thank you, Sabrainna, and I thank you for putting that beautiful CV out there for me. And it's always a pleasure to be here on PRC TV and to not only share perspectives with you, but share a little bit of what we've been doing out there on the field, both at national and international levels, but most especially with young people as we accompany government, accompany its vision for a much more tolerant and socially acceptable society across the 10 regions of Cameroon.
Okay, so for those of you watching us, just to remind you that my colleague Manfred Likine, right in Studio 2, will be joining us in the course of the program. So before we get into the core of our topic, I'm curious to know what's prompted a political analyst like you to get this committed, to get this engaged in the fight against hate speech.
I think one of the questions that I often ask myself is, as a young person, what are you doing to change and reverse the tides of a problem you see in your community? Mm-hmm. And this question was asked to me when I was just as young as 15. And the question of hate speech came into the picture very, very early. My first days in university were not very beautiful. In fact, I had gloomy days because of the way I was dressed. Not only myself as an individual, but handfuls of persons. We had persons, the way they were dressed, they were actually addressed differently. Mm-hmm. They were treated differently by their classmates, simply of the language they spoke and where they came from. But also that we had services we could not even access because you were either speaking a French-speaking or an English-speaking student. And later in my life, I realized if there's something I should address, should be hate speech. Partly also because the country has been grappling with this. Let's be very clear, hate speech has not just come out like mushroom today. Mm-hmm. It's been there, but actors and vectors of communication that will help us understand the dangers of hate speech were not as strong as we see it today. So partly it's personal, but also it's a national call. I think national and international instruments, which Cameroon is member of, have done this. Let's start internally. The President of the Republic, I think now for close to 7 years running, has constantly reminded, be it the old and the young, I would say the analog and the digital, the Gen Z generation, that hate speech is one of those problems that he wants to tackle. Mm-hmm. And if the President puts out this call out there, what should we do? We sit and expect him to do all by himself? No. Our role within civil society is to accompany government, do what their vision is. So we jumped into this, but yes, Cameroon is a member of the United Nations organization. And the UN have even an action plan on hate speech. And when I look at all of this, I say, what can we then do? What kind of innovative strategies can we use so that within communities, within the schools, within churches, within markets, in palaces, in government offices, in transport agencies, hate speech, people can understand first the dangers of hate speech. Secondly, the trouble that hate speech is bringing to us and how it tears us. But also that there are instruments put in place, be them social, political, and economic, that when you propagate hate speech, it brings Cameroon backward. And I want to end this by saying that the moment you pronounce hate speech, it takes Cameroon 5, 10, 15 years backward. So imagine yourself in 2020 or 2015, how you were, how Cameroon was, and the development strides we've done. You want to bring Cameroon back when you're propagating and segregating against one another by using hate speech.
Okay, so simply put, in your very own words, how can you define hate speech and xenophobia? Those are two terms we've been using. I think it's important for our televiewers to clearly understand the difference between those two terms, which are not synonyms and can't be used interchangeably. So, in your own words, what is...
Perfectly, and I understand that the lexicon in Cameroon uses them because Cameroon is one of those countries that is very tolerant and accepting to many people from different backgrounds. Let's start with hate speech. Hate speech in its definition and in the very commonness of it all will be any action, any communication. That's why we talk of speech. We're not just talking of hate actions. Hate speech will be any form of communication that seeks to remove humanity from one another. When we say denigrate, these are just qualitative adjectives. When we say segregate, these are just qualitative adjectives that we can use. But I would dare tell you, each time we talk about hate speech, we're talking about communication that seeks to remove humanity from you because of your background. And this background could be ethnic in Cameroon, like we know we have ethnic groups. It could be social. We have people who are of the middle class. We have people who are of the bourgeoisie class. It could be that. It could be religious. The definition of your background goes beyond. It could just be because of your gender. You're male and female. I'm segregating upon you simply because you are of the other gender. If we want to hold it here for hate speech, and there are areas in which push people to use hate speech and xenophobia interchangeably, we would see. Xenophobia then intervenes when we are talking more about the treatment given to one another because of race. And you'll be asking me, in Cameroon, do we have two races in Cameroon and the rest?
Definitely.
But remember very well that Cameroon also finds itself within the international structure, which means that as Cameroonians have gone elsewhere and have taken up nationalities, so also are people from the Hispanics, the whites. We have people who've come to Cameroon either by birth or after by family reunion. Remember very well that during COVID, we had people who said, no, the diaspora is the problem. They are the ones bringing this. People who are coming from elsewhere. I dare always tell people that xenophobia manifested itself very much when we had everything that used to drop down from a plane was very good until we had COVID that came. And people started saying that, no, it is these people who brought COVID, so we don't want them. We don't want to see them. In essence, xenophobia focuses more on different racial groups. And because Cameroon does not live in a vacuum, we in Cameroon are saying, in the global definition of hate speech, we have ethnic groups in Cameroon, not race. But when you look further, you understand that Cameroonians also have persons who are not of the black race, which we actually do have here in Cameroon.
Just a second. Beyond the race factor, let's try to get this clearer. For example, we get instances where families reject weddings or unions from people who come from other regions. They say, well, we don't want our daughter to get married to somebody from this tribe or from these people. Can we say it's a xenophobic act? Or, for example, the French people don't want to associate with the English people? Or is it maybe we can say it's a sense of reject?
That's exactly where we have the two concepts come together. Okay. Where you have somebody saying because this person is from the albino community, we don't want them to get married from this community. Because this person is from the Baka ethnic group, because this person is from the Mbum ethnic group, we don't want them to actually come together. We are rejecting that kind of dynamic. Now you have a mixture between what is typically will be considered ethnicity and what we will be calling on one hand as race. We've also had persons who found love in other races, and they were unable to do what? To actually settle down because community was intolerant to this. And this is actually a hateful act that people commit, and I would say knowingly, because you would not tell me that you didn't know that segregating against one another because of a characteristic he or she is born with is something you didn't actually know or understand about.
And so what, according to you, what are the major causes of hate speech and xenophobia in Cameroon?
The causes are many. And we can try to do a panoramic view and just script through and go over. I think that one of the causes, we would always put this very clearly, and we've said this in different, has been, I would say, the polarization of political debates around Cameroon. There are people who are unable to sustain a conversation, and all they can do is actually go to attack your origins because they know by doing that they're going to actually weaken you. So we have seen more and more people being pushed to propagate hate speech, not just because they want to, but because they don't have the argument. We see two opposing political views on being unable to reconcile, and the next thing you hear, one person jumps into the other. But also, let's come back a little bit. Cameroon was under the protectorate of French and the British. And even before then, we had German occupation of Cameroon. This had something to do with the way we perceive one another in the country. Remember the concepts of divide and rule, in which we used to consider that the other person is not as good as you are. In fact, there are ethnic groups in Cameroon who call themselves the superior. If you go to the south, you'll see it. If you go to the Adamawa, you will see it.
It dates back from history.
Exactly. That they were made to understand that they are more superior to one another, which these are concepts that as a nation state, we cannot actually tolerate them. This has also pushed people to feel like, oh, because I'm from this ethnic group, we are more than you. So you don't have access to this. When we are talking, you people should listen. And I will share another example which is not directly related to Cameroon, so you understand this very well. There are people who think that because you were colonized, or you were under British mandate, or you were under French mandate, what you are saying is the gospel truth, and the person of the other language should not actually counteract this, because that is the way we feel. That is the way we think. What it does to you is that it puts you in a situation of, hey, you start putting back yourself into question to see this. But definitely social and economic reasons. I say in some of my outings that I think there are only two groups in the whole world, be it in the US, be it in Germany, in China, and wherever. They are only the haves and the have-nots. When you are unable to feed yourself, you start thinking that maybe it's because Sabrainna is eating that I'm unable to eat. So I start looking for ways and mechanisms to get through to Sabrainna, not because of who she is, of what she has to eat, but because I'm feeling like what I should have had, Sabrainna is the one holding this. So there are economic reasons that we have, definitely. There are other factors of socialization around us, such as the schools, our education, and the rest. And I would say the schools, the education, the family, as a cause of hate speech. You grow up and you're 25 years, and you're told this. I was told this personally when I was somewhere in the littoral, that, Monsieur, nous savons que les Yabassiens sont des sorciers. To mean, sir, I know that people from Yabassi are witches. I have documented instances of people saying that, no, I am from Com, and when I tell someone I'm from Com, I'm ready to fight because I know they will call me, Com is Koloyamo. Why? People have grown up within family, within neighborhood, with cliches that are not true, that have pushed hate speech on the other persons, to the point where you are 30 years and you've been told a lie for the rest of your life. And that is why my fight, we've decided not only to sit in the offices to be foot soldiers, go out there and get these people. And the last one, I would say, has been the role of the media. Thank you to the media for the excellent job they're doing. And I'm happy that I am at PLC TV today. And this is part of the work we want the media to do. Lay bare the challenges and consequences of hate speech. But hey, we have another factor, the social media, which we don't control. In fact, when you write something from here, it pushes out there.
We're going to get to the role or the impact social media has on the spread of hate speech and xenophobia. But then, did hate speech exist before the Anglophone crisis? Because we observed that a commission was created by presidential decree to promote living together after the Anglophone crisis. So could we assume that hate speech started after the crisis, or Do you think it already existed even before the crisis?
Hate speech existed before the crisis.
Okay.
I can go back into the 60s, into the 70s, into the 80s, and even give you concrete examples of what was considered as hate speech. In fact, do you know that there is still a neighborhood or a junction in an intersection in Cameroon called Carrefour Maki in Cameroon? Have you heard of the word Gadamayo? Gadamayo Mere. I should not even end at Gadamayo. I should go to Gadamayo Mere. Have you heard of Wari Wari within the Adamawa belt? Right. Have you ever heard of Kamnogo?
Yes.
These are terminologies that existed to define and push a particular narrative on an individual. When you were called Kamnogo, when you were called Chop Brook Pot, it meant something. When you were called l'ennemi dans la maison, it meant something. So hate speech did not come with the Anglophone conflict. But I will tell you why at the Anglophone conflict, the government saw it as a tipping point.
Mm-hmm. The last stroke that broke the camel's back.
Exactly. We started seeing symptoms and signs of what happened in countries like Rwanda and ex-Yugoslavia, in Cameroon with the Anglophone conflict, where people were pushing narratives that were partly not true. So we were caught in between existing instruments and institutions to push hate speech, but also misinformation that government had to act. And this action, yes, came with the Anglophone conflict. But it does not mean that hate speech did not exist before this period.
So why does hate speech and xenophobia skyrocket during elections or national crisis? Why? Because we observe, especially on social media, during elections, when there was a crisis, that's when you have the impression that persons wake up from sleep and they put more energy into perpetrating hate speech and being xenophobic on social media. Why is that?
There are a plethora of reasons for that, but I will limit myself to about 2 or 3 of them for the sake of this interview. And the first one will be, there has been political polarization within the Cameroonian space as far as politics is concerned. Mm-hmm. And what do I mean by political? People are dragging things that are not even supposed to be dragged. I don't come after you because of the opinions you have on economic development, of social transformation, of diplomatic prowess that Cameroon should have in the international scene. But I start looking, Sabrainna is from which tribe? Sabrainna comes from where? Sabrainna speaks which language? Sabrainna,
what's her name?
What's her name? And they say her name is this. They say, oh, if her name is Ndi, it means that she comes from this group, and that is how we start treating Sabrainna. So people lack the argument in politics, and they tend to use, rather, what I will call hateful slurs against one another, because they cannot actually come after you. And that's why, during political moments, you see lots and lots of hate speech will jump up. The second reason why we have this is because during political campaigns, when rallies are launched, we have a very low level of political socialization in Cameroon. The family, the media, the schools have done very little. And that's why go out there, meet an average adult and ask them, what was the political manifesto of Party A, the CPDM? What was the political manifesto of the SDF? What was the political manifesto of, I don't know, the PCRN? Political parties that ran during the last presidential elections. People will not actually know, but they would dive in to tell you, oh, this party is led by somebody from this. Mm-hmm. Have you heard the terminology? Like, le candidat is anglophone, le candidat is nordiste. Mm-hmm. These are terminologies that when you hear them, oh, there's even a young man on TikTok who went ahead to make sound bites to say people from here want this candidate, people from here want this candidate.
People from this region will vote for this candidate from there.
It tells you that we've not yet understood the game of politics to the level we are supposed to. When I say we, not all Cameroonians though. We have a vast majority who does not understand that politics transcends ethnic group, regional, and the rest. And definitely the law in Cameroon is very clear. Your party can never just be ethnically based or regionally based. It has to cover the whole territory. And the third one, why we see it very strongly, this is the only period where people feel like I should empty out what I have on the other person. It does not matter whether it's true or false, but it's the art of demagogy, lies telling, misinforming the public. And because I say this during campaigns, I can woo vote. I don't care whether what I say is true or is false, but as long as I say it and it makes people to follow me, it will go. And I end with this. Remember that bad news, insult, will get you more followership at a very short period than when you speak the truth. And that's why people keep asking us, hey, you're countering hate speech. But we have the impression that hate speech is actually on the rise. And I tell them, it's because the public, part of them, actually following this for on a short run. But when you go on the long run, people are actually coming back to say, this is wrong. We should not be doing A, B, C, and O, D.
And so let's come back to the social media aspect. How has social media contributed to spread hate speech and xenophobia on the internet?
Permit me show you this and show Cameroonians this. This is social media, hate speech on the social media. And these are some of the resources we use out there for Cameroon. It gives you guidelines on Facebook, on WhatsApp, on TikTok and the rest. Social media and hate speech, this is a topic on its own. This is a conversation on its own. At 3 levels. One, at design level. When I say design, social media, most of the platforms are not Cameroonian built. There are platforms that we get up, we see people are using them, we get to engage with them. I have been at the forefront of this, talking with platforms such as Meta. We are a trusted partner of Meta, so we escalate content to them. I've been talking to TikTok. At some point, we were talking to X, very good. We talked to WhatsApp also. Social media is designed on a capitalist perspective, where the more you have content, the more you can actually earn money. It does not matter if this content is true or false. It does not matter if it's content pushing social cohesion or actually dividing people. The content on these platforms are different. And you would be asking me, what do you say about this? Because there are community standards which go against misinformation, hate speech, incitement to violence, and the rest. And I will tell you, what happens on social media when I post in Limbum, when you post in Douala, when you write content in Fulfulde, when I write something in Bulu, these algorithms will never know. So hate speech keeps on going up. And interestingly, we're having these conversations within the university milieus, the reincarnation and the reinvention of language in Cameroon. Have you heard of the famous franc anglais?
Yeah, franglais.
So you're not talking about, you're not speaking in English or in French. No algorithm will catch this. And you need humans to do that. That's the first level of design we have to. So I'm saying we need to be part of the design. Secondly is sovereignty. These are platforms that transgress our sovereignty without us even having anything to do. Platforms are based in the US, they're based in, China and the rest. And you get up one morning and your kid is telling you something that is built on a US model of democracy, of socialization. I'm not saying we should be against globalization.
Or maybe we should create ours. Is that what you're trying to say?
We should create ours. We should look for
that we consider our realities.
Indigenous solutions to social networking that consider our realities, that consider who we are. Because the moment in which you start pushing against this concept, people are like, no, this is, you're coming on freedom of speech and freedom of expression. But also, social media comes with what we call virtuality, the comfort of the keyboard. Somebody says something and say, I have said this, I am in my room, I have said it, come and beat me.
He dares you. He dares the government.
He dares even the government. And I've had instances in which people have written things online, and we've gone after them. We've actually written to the court. Some of them, we've invited them. And when we sit with them one-on-one, they are unable to actually recognize what they wrote. They say, like, did I write this? No, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to write this. We've had people who we've brought them in front of authorities. Authorities have called them to say, look, this is against the law, and this is the structures we've had.
We are going to come to the consequences, but let's stick to social media. We see that the content orientation of some bloggers, activists, and social media users sometimes happens to fragilize living together. Should government rely on sensitization or enforce strict measures?
It's a slippery slope, and I will tell you why. So I have a civil society background, so permit me, I come from there. Sensitization is key. Education is key. If you have a 10-year, a 15-year-old child, and you tell them, do not touch that pot, it is hot, it's going to burn you, the first thing they will do is to touch it to see how hot it is before they can back out. The repressive measures have always failed where we have assertive options. Education is key, but we are not saying that the laws should not exist, because even we as Civic Watch, we've used the law. We've gone for the law. We've said people should actually use these laws. Education is key. Imagine you sanctioning someone who realizes that he was actually committing a crime just the day he's called to court and the offense is read to him. He's like, no, we have been saying this, say yes. It's not because you've been saying it for 20 years that it is true. So education is key, but we need to reinforce this with the legal instruments and the administrative instruments. But yes, before we do education and the rest, we need role models who stand out there. And I'm calling on our parents. I'm calling on our statesmen, people in places of authority, to be the light to the communities. I go down there and people tell me, oh, I hear that you're coming from Yaoundé. You've left hate speech in Yaoundé, and what are you doing in my village? Go back and start fighting hate speech from Yaoundé, and you come back here. And that's why I'm always very happy when the President of the Republic reminds people of hate speech. It means that, yes, that solution has rather started from Yaoundé, and it's going down into different communities around the country.
And so many Cameroonians use pejorative labels like Saadinar, Les Talibans, Babana, Tontinar, Nrafi, Anglo, which are pejorative etiquettes. And then some Cameroonians in the course of time have normalized accepting these names and answer when called without objection. Should they continue in that line, or what do you say about that?
I love this, Sabrainna. And you know why? When I call you a Cameroonian, in particular spheres, you shine, you glow, your smile changes. You go back, oh, the Cameroon of Roger Mila. You say, yes, that is my Cameroon. But there are also instances when I call you a Cameroonian. You are like, should I actually accept this? We are conscious of the fact that we cannot, and I will say this, we cannot completely eradicate hate speech in our present context. Why? Because of the multiplicity of difference we have in our communities. This difference is even within families. In fact, the people within the same families that look different. And because of that difference, people would have the tendency of calling each other different names. The first thing we want to do is get people to understand the dangers of the names they call. If you understand this, people should be, definitely, go on.
And so what dangers do such etiquettes have on national unity?
It reduces self-esteem. It denigrates persons. It qualifies people to be lesser humans than others. It puts you in a pedestal of actually rethinking your whole generation and your whole existence, rather than thinking where the country should go. And to that question, I will say we should stamp out these. But when need is, what I would advise people to do is, if you call me a Babana, or you call me Changpo, we had floods in Douala, and someone held a piglet as he was actually navigating the floods and said, jamais sans mon porc. Je suis mouton et puis je suis fier. And you heard an artist said, je suis bamenda et puis quoi? Do you know what that means? It turns the question to you, the perpetrator, that you're calling me this name, you think it's going to bring me down. Rather, it's actually uplift me. But the problem with this is, if we just sit and say, because people are accepting these names, and we go with that without educating persons on the dangers of what these names can cause, it's going to clamp us into an atmosphere of antagonism in which you start calling people. Let me tell you, recently there's a term people are using very much in Cameroon within the sporting sphere, les zibous, les églisiens. Every word has a genealogy, a reason why it was actually created. And the moment you call something a dog, it's not because that thing is a dog. It's the meaning you give to it before you qualify it a dog. And that is why the slang always goes like, give the dog a bad name so you can hang it. So when you start calling somebody Gadamayo, when you start calling somebody Chop Brook Pot, when you start calling somebody these terms like Kam No Go, when you call them Wari Wari, these terminologies, that phrase you said, does not mean anything. It's the conception behind that phrase. I dare have asked many Cameroonians, do you know why in our social plans people have said les anglophones sont à gauche? We're here to educate. People don't know and they use these things. And it's actually very bad. Why? Because people use terminologies they've grown and seen, which were not even pejorative, and use them now as a pejorative way. Je suis pas ton bamenda. These are etiquettes that, like I say, if we are not careful with them, it's going to put us in an impasse in which I will go after person. Sabrina's will go after person that don't call my sister this, don't call my brother this. He is not this kind of thing because you have that understanding.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to take a short break and we'll be right back after this. Welcome back. Now we are going to see Manfred Likine, as earlier announced, who will be talking about government efforts and attempts to fight hate speech and xenophobia. Hello, Manfred. Can you hear us?
Hello, Sabrainna. I can get you clear and sound. It's great joining discussions at this moment. And to our guest, welcome to Studio 2 of PRC TV.
Thank you, Manfred, and the pleasure is always mine to be here with you.
Building from earlier discussions you had, I would like us to go a little further with regards to efforts being carried out by the state or the government of Cameroon, as I may say. One of such efforts is the creation of the National Commission for the Promotion of Bilingualism and Multiculturalism. Can you assess the effectiveness of this institution since its creation?
Should I dare call it the Mosonge Commission, as it's popularly known out there? I come from the common man in the street, I would put it that way, and I want them to resonate with what we are saying here. The creation of the National Commission for the Promotion of Bilingualism and Multiculturalism came like a stitch in time because I think public institutions were certain of one thing that was happening. Hate speech was on the rise. Xenophobia was on the rise. Cameroonians have forgotten the need to come together, to unite in their differences. And the country said, because we have a multiplicity of ethnic and social kind of classes, we should bring this. And since the Commission's creation, I would say, yes, there's been some work being done. I think the Commission has not only done sensitization, they've not only partnered with international and national institutions, they've not also authored reports to show us the dangers and how far hate speech has been detrimental to the country. They have also partnered with civil society, and I'm very happy that Civic Watch is one of those partners that work all over the 10 regions, work up in one of the 10 regions of Cameroon to curb hate speech. One of the things we see with the National Commission for the Promotion of Bilingualism and Multiculturalism is that in as much as they're created by the President of the Republic and attached to the presidency of the Republic, they have advisory role to tell the highest institution of the land what they are seeing out there as far as hate speech is concerned. Remember that their mandate does not only limit within Cameroon, so they go to even diplomatic missions and engage Cameroonian diaspora which are out there. Nevertheless, the institution still has a lot that can be done to shape and push its mandate further. And part of this is reinforcing partnerships. We've seen them already working in line with civil society organizations. Like I mentioned, Civic Watch is a member of the Civil Society Coalition for the Fight Against Hate Speech and Xenophobia, and we deploy actions within the Northwest, but generally we deploy actions in the whole country. And the president of the commission, while commissioning work, will always tell you, you live in the communities, you work with the people, go out there, talk to the people in a language they will understand. They should strengthen more partnerships, but definitely, I think that there is more and more need for sensitization and education. In the coming days, you're going to see this, and we're going to be partnering with them to be putting up billboards around the country. You would see from different regions, you see messages that will warn people about the dangers of hate speech, that will tell people what is hateful, will tell people to be careful when they're actually addressing somebody who is different from them. That will even go as far as telling people the sanctions that exist, be them social sanctions or penal sanctions that do exist, and tell them the dangers that we will have if we continue to propagate hate speech. And we're counting on other stakeholders in the process, regional governors, we're counting on city mayors that will make this project further. The third thing that could be done also is engagement with digital platforms. Manfred, earlier on I was talking with Sabrainna and we mentioned social media briefly. And I would say it's also the role of the Commission to go after these platforms and give them the context of Cameroon so that when they're designing their products that are going to be used in Cameroon, they should know exactly. Other countries have done it. If we cannot do it as a country, Cameroon is found in a sub-region. We can do it as a sub-region. The EU, for instance, have taken measures that I would take things such as nudity, incitement to violence, hate speech, is much more reduced on the social media in their own perspective. So going after these kinds of institutions will be best. But also, causing hate of institutions, remember that we learn by seeing what someone is doing. And because hate speech is also very much entrenched in the youthful population of the country, we want our parents, we want the elderly, the population, we want even people who have gone past the working age into the third generation of their lives to be those carrying those flagships to say, look, if we did say so in the past, we are sorry for this. This is not what we meant. Because of what? This reconciles the nation. The Commission is not just promotion of bilingualism, it's also multiculturalism. And multiculturalism will mean that whether you are female and male, whether you are Ntumu and Ambassa, whether you are Douala and Ambo, whether you are Bakosi and Ambum, we should actually respect our identities and live in one another. And finally, I would say the Commission should also very much, and very, very much, use the media very strongly. I'm happy that the Commission has a publication, it's called Le Compatriote, which every month, I think every time we get a copy of it to see the works of the Commission, what they've been doing. But I think on social media, the Commission could be much more robust. On medias like this, the Commission could be much more robust. Why not have spots on the works the Commission is doing so that we can have, we can leverage the access to information that we're looking forward to actually get Cameroonians edified and turn down the tides for hate speech in Cameroon.
Okay, Dr. Desmond Ngala, going back on sensitization, talking about sensitization, you discover that intercommunal dialogue is crucial in stopping this cankerworm. And recently, we've discovered that the National Commission for the Promotion of Bilingualism, and to an extent, the National Communication Council, have been embarking on a mission in the regions, in the communities, to educate communities on the dangers of hate speech. What's your perspective on this? Are they producing results?
There is no way we will resolve the problems we have without dialogue. And I tell you, Manfred, there are moments in which you meet people and talk to them and you feel like, hey, I didn't know you were this ignorant. Persons, you would even believe they are not that ignorant. I love journalists. They are lots of my friends. The media. The media is very friendly to me, and I'm very friendly also to them. But I tell you, at times you meet someone who's gone through the training as a media personnel and has not actually beefed up their skills and is reporting news in a way that actually divides society rather than bringing this society together. Right? And I think that these kinds of dialogues are what will actually capture not only us as people, but will capture the whole nation on the table. Community dialogue is key. Why? Because it talks to the real people who face these things. I'll give you examples because the work we do around hate speech is not limited to Cameroon. And I'm proud to always say that I'm Cameroonian when I move around other African countries and I share the Cameroonian experience. But also I bring experiences from out there. I would tell you in Boma sessions, Boma sessions could be sessions in which you bring ethnic group A and ethnic group B to sit together. You bring representatives of these ethnic groups. And they look at each other and say, look, you people call my people this name, we don't want it because it means this to us. And you say, you call us this name, we don't want it. You say, okay, from now, we are not going to do that. Communities are going to make sure that that dialogue flow down. If you bring Nsoda, the Nsot Development and Cultural Association, and you bring Wikuda, the Wimbum Development and Cultural Association, and put them together, and you bring, I don't know, the people from the Basalan, you bring people from the Bamunland, and put all of these groups in one room, you would be shocked at what you will hear. That they will say, hey, look, you're neighboring to us, but you call us this name, we don't want it. And these kinds of dialogue, Manfred, will be what will resolve the problems. Dialogue is key, but we should do this dialogue and remind everyone who is part of this dialogue that there are also stringent measures that could be implemented. But important in this dialogue should be the intergenerational aspects of this dialogue. So it should not just be dialogue between people above 40. So we should have young people, we should have women, we should have people with disabilities, we should have every strata of the communities on the dialogue table. So much so that at the end of the day, everyone goes home and everyone's voice was heard. And that will be the reason why we will not have hate speech will not continue to be shared within families. Because you tend to ask yourself, but who told this child that these people are called this name? It's because the mother, the father, the elder brother, the elder sister, the school milieu were calling that person that name, that this child grasps that notion and grow up with it, knowing that this is what I know about this particular ethnic group.
Okay, I believe you've interacted with some of these members on the field. How does this resonate with your personal experiences on the field, given that you recently defended a PhD on hate speech and you are part of Defy Hate Now organization as well as the Civic Watch, as you earlier mentioned? How does this resonate with your personal experiences?
I will give you four instances. One was with the Lamido of Garwa, with the concept of Garwa Putus, which means that Garwa for all. Garwa is a town, for those of you who have not traveled around Cameroon, a beautiful town in the north of the country, who says that his notables are not only people who are Fulanis, people who advise him. And I was shocked because I know that this is kind of, Garwa comes from, it's not only traditional, but it's also a religious kind of setting. And I was shocked to hear that there were people within his own entourage who are not even origins of the North region. They are not even from the Fulani ethnic group. They only speak French. They speak Fulani now because they live in that community. That's just one. In my interactions with the fund of Mancon, I was shocked that the fund did not only understand the dynamics of Mancon, which is actually headquartered in the regional capital of the Northwest, but that in his other career, he's gone to other communities, and he can interact with people from Kambe, from Nu, where he told me he was a teacher. And he was telling me, look, it goes beyond just being a fund. It's about being of service to the community. It's about letting your doors open for everyone else to be able to access it. But now, these are two examples at two extremes. One in a French setting and another one in an English setting. And this is what I deduce from this kind of interaction. One, that we have the raw material. Two, we are already doing work that local communities are open to it. I work a lot with regional nodes, community leaders, development association bodies. And when I talk to them, what they tell me is, we are ready to engage in this fight. In fact, there were times in which they would call me Mr. Hate Speech. I said, no, I'm not Mr. Hate Speech. They said, no, we know that you are in this group. And I will go on social media, someone will be talking, they will tag me and say, this is hateful. I will sit and my inbox is flooded with people actually writing to me, say, we met you in this community. I was in Biya just a few days ago. And I come back to Yaoundé to tons of messages, people saying, oh, we want to be part of this movement. We want to push through this drive. In one of my engagements in Biya Urban, with Honorable Malomba Eseme, who is the MP for Biya Urban, and chiefs of Biya and the administration of Biya, we realized something, that in fact, people used to have preconceived minds before they arrived Biya. But that once in Biya, those who were actually holding Biya and pushing Biya were the mixture and the blend of all of this. That dances could come from as close as Tole and as far as Bangante to a cultural festival that is happening within the Biya municipality. And I was like, this is interesting. This is what we call living together. My perception and what I see in the communities is that people want to live together. But we have allowed ourselves to be used by what I would say politicians, to be used by disgruntled people within the social and economic class, but also to be used by governance. I said it, the haves and the have-not. Have you heard this terminology when somebody is, we have appointments and somebody say, go and check there, how many people from my tribe are there? And we had this question out there. We have concours and people are like, how many people from this tribe are in there? Because we're not looking at it as a nation state. We're looking at it as a community where everyone, my tribe should be there, which I still agree that we can have this mixture, this big bowl of salad, and and we can enjoy it.
Okay, Doctor. I know this is a field you master a lot, and if allowed, you will use the whole day with experiences you've had in the field. Now, with these experiences, how can progress in reducing hate speech be measured?
The first thing will be at the level of which people take hateful slurs. Sabia mentioned earlier that when you call me now, Kamnogo, I say yes. And I mentioned an artist singing, Je suis Bamenda Epukwa. People have developed a thick skin to this to say, look, these are trivial things. The main things are actually making sure that we develop ourselves as human beings and go further. And I will ask you something, Sabrina. If today I start calling you a name in which you are not, does it change something from you? Change nothing from. And this is the first level we can do. The second level will be what you're doing. 3 years back, we didn't have programs in the media around this. Actually, we even wrote to administrations in Cameroon to say, hate speech was a problem. We didn't get replies. But do you know what? 1 year down the line, we were having invitations from them. Oh, can you come and speak at this conference? Can you come and talk to these young people in this camp? Can you come and do this? Can you come and do this? It means that they have seen the importance of what we were talking about, and they want to be part and parcel of this. This is the second thing. The third thing is maybe it's not known. Cameroon is one of those countries in Francophone Africa that have around 4 representatives that talk directly to Meta from the civil society space, that tell Meta this is wrong, this content is hateful, you should remove it. And it will be removed. They call it the Facebook Trusted Partner Channel. It's not given to anybody. It tells you that they have understood the problem is there. They've understood they don't have the manpower to do it. They've understood that they can actually rely on trusted persons on the ground to do this kind of work. This is not selection in which you send recommendations. No, it's based on your work that you're called into that network, into that prestigious network. And even within in lines with this, we even have Cameroonians who are in some of these tech platforms, who sit at the oversight board and look at these kinds of things. So we can measure and say, because these persons are there, they're trying to push certain conversations. If Manfred, I would tell you, the term Gary, if you use it on Facebook now, be very careful the way you use it, because it could actually just be removed. Because of what? Sorry. Somebody used the term Gary in the past to incite violence in the Northwest and Southwest against people. And we told Meta that this is wrong. And Meta said, no, Gary means it's flour from this. We said, no, this is wrong. But when we brought proof of this, Meta immediately acted on that. Deleting content, removing some of this. It goes beyond just doing this work to making sure that people understand that what we are doing on the ground It's different. And the last one will be the awareness that we have now raised. When you go down to the street, you're having conversation in a Njangi house, you're sitting somewhere, someone says something, you just hear someone like, no, this one is hate speech. This one is hate speech. Where is that coming from? We in the 2015s, we didn't have this, right? Hate speech was there, but we were not actually talking. So we can measure this through different instruments in which, and anecdotal stories of which people have moved up, and people are standing up, and they're not just bystanders. Where the moment you start talking about hateful content, someone is like, no. You don't. That kind of language is not welcome here. We don't want that kind of language. So people have moved away from just saying, I will fold my hands and sit. After all, those wordings are not actually being said to me. I would rather dive in there, jump at you, if you actually are propagating a hateful content.
Okay, there is law number 2019/020 of December 2019, which addresses content and hate speech. Do you think this law is enough?
I'm always very hesitant with the 2019 law. I would commend actors within government, because this law came from the government bench at the National Assembly. Be it the National Commission for the Promotion of Bilingualism, be it the National Communications Council, the Ministry of Communication, Ministry of Post and Telecommunication, ANTIC, all of these arsenal and battery of government institutions that came together and put this law. But I tell you, it only talks of contempt to tribe. In Cameroon, hate speech goes beyond tribe. Right?
Okay.
It also talks about sanctions. And I tell you,
which we are going to see in the next part of the program.
Exactly. It talks about sanction. But I tell you that this law can do better. One, I would say, I'm calling on our judicial authorities, the state councils, Ministère Public, I love that term, who defend our interests, the public interest, to take up cases of hate speech. We have them online every day. We have them offline. In fact, with the recent elections, we could not breach because of hateful content that is online by identifiable persons who are out there. State councils should jump at this as an advantage to themselves and say, you know what, this law says that, and because I want to protect social peace in this country, we're going to bring this person down. When we do that and announce the results of persons who've done that, it's going to serve as a deterrent. The law is good, but without its implementation, this law will not serve us the purpose in which this law was actually enacted for.
And this brings me to my last question. Should this fight be left alone to government?
Never. This fight cannot be won by government. And I always have, I have a background in political science, and the question of government is always something that is very tricky to me. Who is the government? I should dare ask, who is the state? I think there's a French philosopher who said, Je n'ai jamais dîné avec l'État, which means that it's our collective responsibility. We have just given the responsibility to maybe a mayor, maybe to all those who've been elected, like the president and the rest, to pilot things. If the president puts down a policy, it's for you and me to do it. And let me challenge you from this perspective. It is the responsibility of the national company, of the national hygienic company called Izakam, to gather garbage and clean the streets and do that. But is it not our responsibility also to make sure that when we chew our granules wherever we are, we conserve the peelings so that we drop them somewhere that this can be collected? That we don't throw banana peelings through the window. If we think that it's only the responsibility of the government, what will potentially happen will be we will all wait that government should actually go into all communities and remember that we are caught up in the nexus, the connection of what we are living today, which is what government cannot serve everybody. We actually have to come in there. Civil society, the media. I challenge the media, and thank you, PRC TV, for giving me this opportunity. I want to challenge the media, be it the public or the private press, be it written press or even the online news blogs. Pick up a slot to actually talk about questions of hate speech and the dangers. For 1, 2, 3 weeks, the public will be edified and they will shun away from their bad ways. Not only the press, but civil society should do this. Youth groups and individuals. What are you waiting for? You watching the program right now. What are you waiting for? Don't think that somebody's going to come, I'm going to stand here with a microphone and sing before you get up and say no. No to hate speech. Non à la haine. Une Cameroun sans haine. A hate-free Cameroon. No. It is your responsibility. It's my responsibility. Yes, government has to take the lead, but we are following government because the president already said it in his inaugural speech. He mentioned. So the next 7 years, we're going to be seeing some of these things unfold within the programs of the government.
Thank you, Dr. Desmond Ngala, for sharing your insights with us on PRC TV, Studio 2. Sabrainna G, from my team and I, it's goodbye. See you next.
See you next. Manfred, it was nice having you. Thanks for your contribution and see you around. Televiewers, we are going to take another break before we get into the next part. Let's see you after that. Welcome back on set. If you're just joining us, you're watching the grand interview on PRC TV. In the second part, we would be looking at sanctions and solutions to hate speech. Dr. Desmond, it's true you tried to bring up some sanctions, maybe from the side of the law, concerning those who perpetrate acts of hate speech and xenophobia. So what are some of these sanctions? Maybe you can extensively elaborate on them.
I would first go with African sanctions. There is an African practice which some of you call it, I would say the media would call it generally the practice of to ostracize people from conversations. Sabrainna, when you're told in a neighborhood that go and get your firewood, get your match, you will not come to the market, you will not do this. Because you, Sabrainna, was found, I'm not saying you, I'm not saying that individual was found guilty of perpetrating hate speech against another person. It's even more difficult, it's even more effective than any other kind of sanction. When society isolates an individual, what I'm saying here is the best sanction we will have will be when a community, I want to cite some of them, the Wimbum community, the Nsok community, the Mankon community, the Bakosi community, the Ngemba community will come up and say, hey, look, because you did this kind of thing, we don't want to associate with you. You're going to stay away for 1 year, 2 years. You will not be part of our gatherings, and this will go. This will be more effective. Do you know why? We all are in need of human love. We're in need of human touch. If you live here and you have to actually walk alone, we always joke and say, if they leave all of Cameroon to you, what are you going to do with it? You need people to be even able to interact. You want to see other faces and see people. So this kind of sanction will work very well if community groups or community-based groups stand up and say, you insulted another community in our community, so we are not going to let you do that. That's the first.
We are not standing with you on this one.
We're not standing with you on this one. It sends a message that, hey, be careful. The second kind of sanction, which I would generally have, will be, I would take this one, social media code of conduct. What is a social media code of conduct? Do you know when you actually sign up for any social media platform, there is a code of conduct in which you are supposed to adhere to? And that code of conduct says something. You're not supposed to insult somebody. You're not supposed to incite violence. You're not supposed to troll people. In fact, you're not supposed to preach hate speech against one another. And the sanction on social media is very simple. The moment you do that, one, after either your posts are deleted, two, your accounts are revoked. And we've had people reach out to us, oh, my account has been revoked. I didn't say that, what they said exactly. But when we go through the story, we understand that they were perpetually actually advocating for hate speech against one another. But this sanction only works when people actually report. Go to your social media, look at the 3 dots at the top of every post, and if there's something you need to report, follow those rules there. They're in English, French, and most languages that we do use, and we will go. Thirdly, as far as sanctions are concerned, it will be political sanctions. Sabrainna, I want to hear in Cameroon that political party A whether it is the CPDM, whether it is the SDF, whether it's the UDC, stands up and issue a communication saying that we are giving a ban of 6 months without actually appeal to this individual because he has held hateful content on the media or out there. And we as a political party, we are saying no.
We even saw some examples during the just ended presidential elections, yeah,
Exactly.
where some parties actually told the public, general public, that they weren't part of the communication or a certain decision or statement made by a member of the political party.
Exactly. It tells you very clear that this kind of sanction brings your political career down. You don't want to be a politician who aspires to lead, but at the same time, people see you more and more like a politician who does what? Who really, really, really wants to push in a dynamic or a conversation that is hateful on one another. Now, I'm putting the law at the end of it because the law intervenes at different levels and the different laws intervening at different levels. The 2010 Cyber Criminal Law, the Cameroon Penal Code, and even the Constitution of Cameroon, which is the highest law of the land, has something to do with hate speech. And generally, what the law will do is the penal code will sanction you from up to 6 months to 5 years in prison, from up to 500 to 5 million. But if you are a media person, if you are a leader of a civil society, so somebody like me, if I were to be found guilty of hate speech, there's going to be no circumstances. They're not going to say you said it under the influence of alcohol. They're not going to say, no, you meant this and it came out like this. If you are a teacher, if you are a journalist, there is going to be no circumstantial evidence for you to say, no, I'm sorry I said it within this. Your own fine will be doubled. Do you know why? Because community looks up to you. Most of us are here, we don't know the power we hold. Until you go out there and people greet you by your name, you're like, oh, so you know me? Say, yeah, I know you from A, B, C, D kind of environment. But most importantly is that this is not only hate speech that is done online, offline, this is also hate speech that is done online. And that is why questions of hate speech and even defamation before now were very close. That the 2010 law did approach and looked at it.
Dr. Desmond, if we let you, we will talk for the whole day. I know you have a lot in stock for Cameroonians, but I think the message is clear. Hate speech and xenophobia is punishable by the Cameroonian law, and I hope they've heard you very well. Then just one solution, because we're running out of time, one solution to hate speech, to fight hate speech and xenophobia in Cameroon, just one solution in very few words. What can you say?
One solution will be public engagement and public endorsement of hate speech country mechanisms that happen in Cameroon. We want to see not only the president say it, but we want to see next, I dare call on the head of government to lead one of these marches and actually take an engagement also to fight this, and all ministers doing that, all politicians, MPs, senators, DOs, right down to mayors and even councillors within communities, endorsing these kinds of approaches we bring to them, so the people should know this is not just a bottom-up, but it's also a top-down approach towards fighting hate speech.
Okay, thank you. So your last words, any plan for 2026, the new year?
If you thought we were fighting hate speech, you need to think again, because what we are going to be bringing to you now will be a tsunami. All of those who are advocating for hate speech, advocating and perpetrating hate speech, we're not going to let you rest. Just know that we are coming not after you. We're not declaring war against you, but you've declared war against the living together of Cameroonians, and we are not going to sit and watch you do that. What we will do is we're going to work with all stakeholders in 2026 to make sure that we reduce hate speech to acceptable levels within the Cameroonian public and even private space in this country. So, non à la haine, no to hate speech, in Cameroon sans haine, a Cameroon, a hate-free Cameroon.
Thank you very much. For those watching us, thanks for staying with us. You heard it yourselves, hate speech and xenophobia are punishable by law. They divide us and set us against one another. President Paul Biya's efforts to promote peace and living together should not be in vain or should not go in vain. We hope that this edition edified you just as much as we here on set. Once more, Dr. Desmond Ngala, it was nice having you on PRC TV. Ladies and gentlemen, goodbye and see you around for another edition, God willing.